courtroom was packed, buzzing with whispers like a hive before the storm. Reporters, lawyers, strangers hungry for drama. They all leaned forward as if the air itself had grown heavy with secrets. In the middle of it all, seated behind the witness stand, was a woman named Clara Voss. Fragile, pale, barely 30. She was the prosecution's key witness. The one person who had seen what no one else dared to speak of. She gripped the edge of the stand like it was the only thing keeping her tethered to this world. Clara had seen the murder. Or at least, she thought she had. Her statement was clear. Brutal, detailed. She swore she saw Victor Wraith, high-profile real estate mogul, now accused murderer, stab his business partner 11 times in a fit of rage. But as the trial began, something had started to change. Something inside Clara. The first whisper came 3 nights before she testified. She was brushing her teeth in her dimly lit apartment when she heard it. Soft, slow, crawling through the air like smoke. Liar. She turned, toothbrush frozen in midair. Nothing. She told herself it was stress. Court was coming. Reporters were calling. Maybe she'd imagined it. But the whispers didn't stop. They got louder. Stranger. The second. One came from the back seat of her locked car. She was driving to court for a pretrial interview when she heard it again, right behind her ear. You saw what you were told to see. She slammed the brakes, heart pounding. Nothing there. Nobody. Just a cold sweat and the lingering sound of her own breath catching in her throat. By the time she stepped into the courtroom, Clara looked like she'd aged 5 years. Makeup barely concealed the dark circles under her eyes. Her hands trembled as she was sworn in. The judge, an old, steely-eyed man named Whitmore, stared at her with a flicker of recognition, like he knew something she didn't. Or maybe he just saw it too. As she began to speak, the lights flickered, just for a moment. Barely noticeable, but Clara noticed. Her voice cracked as she repeated what she'd told the detectives. The argument, the blade, the screaming. Blood on the floor like spilled paint. Victor sitting there afterwards, staring at his hands like they weren't his own. But then she paused, mid-sentence, eyes wide, dead silent. The courtroom held its breath because Clara wasn't looking at the judge, or the lawyers, or the accused. She was staring at the empty jury box. Empty. Except it wasn't. Not to her. 12 shadows sat there, motionless, all in black. Eyes like coal, watching her, judging. And from them came that sound again, the one no one else seemed to hear. A whisper, low and slick, like oil through water. Speak the lie and you'll burn with it. Her throat closed up. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't speak. The prosecutor called her name. Once, twice, nothing. Just Clara, frozen in fear, staring at something invisible. The judge leaned forward, tapping the gavel once, sharply. And that's when she screamed. It wasn't just fear. It was terror. Bone deep, unfiltered. She collapsed from the stand, knocking over the glass of water as she hit the ground. Security rushed forward. The courtroom erupted. Cameras flashed. Victor Wraith just smiled. She was taken out on a stretcher, eyes wide, muttering under her breath the same words again and again. It wasn't him. It wasn't him. It wasn't him. Outside the courthouse, reporters scrambled to update their breaking news segments. Inside, Judge Whitmore called for recess, then lingered in the silence, staring at the spot where Clara had stood. For just a second, just the faintest flicker. He heard it too. The whisper. Not hers. Not the crowd's. Something else. The witness has seen the devil, and he's in the docket.
The courtroom bell rang again, sharp and cold, but this time the air felt heavier, the kind of silence that seeps into your bones. Clara Voss was gone. Her screams, her wide eyes, the way she whispered, it wasn't him. It all lingered, like the faint scent of something dead in a locked room, and now All eyes turned to the one man who hadn't flinched through it all. Judge Harlan Whitmore. 65. A man of iron principles, unshakable, respected, feared. The justice system had carved his name into stone. But today, there was something wrong, something in his eyes, a flicker of recognition. Or was it fear? Court resumed. Lawyers spoke. Motions were filed, but the judge wasn't really there. His body sat on the bench, but his mind, it was drifting, haunted, dragged backward through time, like a man forced to revisit a deal he'd buried long ago. When court adjourned for the day, Whitmore didn't go home. He went to his chambers, locked the door behind him, and opened the bottom drawer of his old oak desk. Inside lay a tattered black journal, its leather cracked with age, its cover burned around the edges. Etched into the front was a symbol, faint, almost hidden, a symbol no legal book had ever printed. He flipped through the pages like muscle memory. Page 66, that's where it always took him, and there it was, written in crimson ink. Justice, like fire, always demands something in return. 20 years ago, Whitmore had lost everything. He was a public defender then, young, idealistic, and utterly powerless. A murderer walked free on a technicality. Days later, Whitmore's daughter was found dead in a motel room, unsolved, brutal, forgotten. That night, drunk and broken, he spoke into the darkness. If you're out there, if you're real, give me the power to make things right. I'll pay whatever it costs. And something had answered. No form, no face, just a presence, cold and ancient, a whisper in his ear that didn't feel like air. I grant justice to those who serve it blindly. You won't lose another case, but you will lose yourself. He agreed, and the next morning, the man who murdered his daughter was found dead. No wounds, no struggle, just lifeless, eyes wide, as if he'd seen something that stole his soul before his breath. Since that day, Whitmore had never lost a ruling. His judgments were precise, ruthless. He rose through the system like a man touched by destiny. Or maybe damned by it. But today, when Clara Voss broke down on that witness stand, when she stared at something invisible, something not meant for human eyes, something inside the judge cracked. That night, long after the courthouse emptied, Whitmore returned. The courtroom lights flickered, the air grew colder, and when he stepped into the chamber, the shadows moved. There, sitting calmly in the defendant's seat, was the same presence. No face, just darkness shaped like a man, waiting. The voice returned, smooth as glass, sharp as knives. 20 years. You've judged them all. You weighed the sins of others while burying your own. But now, a decision approaches that you must make, alone. Whitmore's breath caught in his throat. This man, Victor Wraith, is he guilty? The judge hesitated. His hand trembled. Clara saw something, he whispered. And I saw it too. The presence chuckled. It wasn't human, not even close. You've always seen, but now you must decide, justice or truth. Whitmore collapsed onto the bench. His gavel lay near his hand, once a symbol of authority. Now it felt like a ticking bomb, and then it said one more thing. Soft, final. Every judgment echoes through eternity. Make sure yours doesn't scream. The next morning, Judge Whitmore entered the courtroom with colder eyes, firmer posture. But something in him was gone. replaced. He looked across the room, at the lawyers, the jurors, and finally at Victor, Wraith. For a brief second, their eyes met, and Whitmore saw something in Victor's gaze. Not fear, not guilt. Recognition. This trial was no longer about right and wrong. It was about bargains, and who was really on trial, because once you let the devil into your courtroom, the verdict is never yours alone. If this chapter pulled you in, made you question what's real and what's lurking in the shadows, then it's only